Greetings adventurers, and welcome to the Loot Goblin Marketplace. I'm a big fan of the Elder Scrolls series, and I'd love a chance to bring the world to life at my table. My biggest fear running a campaign like that though, is that the entire party will fight constantly on who is the main character and it derails the campaign. Or even worse, they realize that I spent so much time modding the game that I barely retained any of the lore of my initial vanilla playthroughs. Anyways, let's get things started with a quick jailbreak sequence, and if we run into any Stormcloaks, just tell them I'm a very sickly looking Nord. I hope you guys enjoyed the new outfit, and today's treasure goes by the name Why I Can't Take Elder Scrolls lore seriously anymore. But before I go any further, I wanted to give D&D Dice a shout out, my favorite dice shop and where half of my paycheck goes to every month. They've got a lot of options, including their original 11-piece dice sets that they call the King of Crits series. Be sure to use the code LootGoblin to support the channel at dnddice.com, or you can just click the link down in that video description and it'll be added when you check out with your favorite dice. As an edgelord myself, my favorite collections are the Plague Doctor and Blood Hunter 11-piece sets, which I use alongside their Tomb of the Lich dice tower. Anyways, back to the video. I was going to wait to post this, but things developed, so I decided to now. This is a tale of romance, tragedy, and CHIM. So I'm still a relatively new dungeon master. I've tried a couple times to run Curse of Strahd already. My boyfriend at the time convinced me that I should run a Curse of Strahd one more time, and I agreed. Though at the time, I was kind of not in a good place to start a new campaign. I was already dungeon mastering 2 other games as of then every week. Being the person that I am, I found myself a bit overwhelmed as I realized that I was in 3 games that I was dungeon mastering and wanted to drop that number down. I stopped running the one that I wasn't having fun with, ended the one with a bunch of new players, but decided that I was actually enjoying running the Curse of Strahd game. It was honestly amazing. Players were getting into character, we were gushing in and out of game time as to what we would do next. It was a blast. I decided that I wanted to expand on the module and push through new plot hooks, new places, and better connections to the story itself. Still have a couple sessions left to go, so not gonna drop too much of it on here. I had 4 players in my game: fighter, wizard, paladin, and a barbarian monk artificer. It works in the game, I promise. I love this character. So time went by and they reached one of the major towns in the module. They completed a few quests, gained a few plot points, and continued the story forward. The fighter realized that they had a pretty important role in the module. Everyone did, just at different points. Theirs was first. He used this to work with the big bad evil guy and cheat the rest of the party out of 2 of the 3 important relics they would need for the final fight in exchange for +2 plate mail. I know I'm probably a problem here, but the rest of the party seemed okay with it at the time. This was when the fighter started acting kinda weird. Remember, players talk in and out of character, and we'd even had some one-on-ones for players who wanted to do more, but would have taken the entire session for them to accomplish their goals. This was online. The one-on-ones were held so anyone who wanted to listen could. It's great since one of them changed one of the player characters completely. Out of the blue, he says he's suspicious of a certain NPC without any reasonable explanation and just starts causing issues in the town. So then he decides he also wants to leave the town they're in. So I ask him what he's going to do outside the town. Like if he's going to try to make his way towards the next one they know about. No, had an NPC see him leaving and ask him where he's going. No actual explanation. Just gonna leave town. I ask him every reason I can think of why he's going out in the woods, and he keeps pushing with the non-reasoning. I finally asked him if he wanted to make a new character. That somehow got him to come to his senses that he wants to keep playing this one and decides to come back to town with the rest of the party. So it was a bit weird, but we kept going. The party eventually meets a wizard that's kind of a jerk, and I'd left clues in other places of the map implying the guy's strength, signs of psychic scream in one room, control over a bunch of undead, etc. So they talk to the guy while fighter tells me he's walking up to him. They are letting him monologue a bit when the fighter says, I attack him. I tell him that, okay, we're gonna roll initiative, but don't I get a surprise round? No, you're standing in front of him and pulling out your weapon in front of you. I told you he's watching all of you, but I was trying for a surprise. But you didn't roll for anything that would imply surprise and didn't ask me for anything. You still won the initiative, so you'll still be going first. He pitches a bit of a fit about not getting a surprise round, but doesn't ask to take back his attack or anything at least, and so the level 5 party rolls initiative. With full permission to be evil to the party and 1 psychic scream later, they're all down or in rough shape, except the barbarian artificer, who wasn't in the visual line of the archmage. The fighter was whining to me about that one later. I held my ground on it, and the party had some fun. Found some journals that were in a language none of them actually knew, continued the plot forward from there. The fighter starts saying that he wants to do things in character that should be discussed over a one-on-one, and I bring that up. He says he doesn't want to do that. Fair? So I ask for footnotes as to what he wants from it. He gives them, and I acquiesce to include it in the storyline. He also says that he wants to start playing Vampire the Masquerade since he likes things he sees from the system, and that I should help him find a group or run a session of my own. I agree and wind up doing all the legwork to find an amazing storyteller willing to take on new players to the game, and I make a Salubri who's pretending to be a Toreador. Paladin goes MIA for a while. We're concerned but assume it's a game day thing or something. It was. So we have the session anyway since it's not too focused on his character. The wizard has a friend who he asks if they can listen in. I agree since I've been enjoying running the game a lot and other people want to hear. Awesome. Enter the warlock. When they join in, I offer to let them play the NPC wizard, not the same one that Psychic screamed, and they agree. They have fun and Fighter suggested that I should let the warlock join in as a player completely, to which I agree. The paladin returns and we catch him up on what's going on and the game goes on. The players make it clear to the other side of the map where there's a bunch of things going on. They fight off enemies and the players decide to set up camp. It's about an hour before our end session, so I get ready with some of my roleplay stuff when Fighter suddenly speaks over me and says, and that's where we're going to end the session. An awkward kind of pause since, what? You know, I didn't want to chime in too early here. I just wanted to let the story ride out a bit. It's becoming more and more apparent that the fighter is someone who's kind of difficult to have at any table. I mean, this is the kind of player who basically says, hey, I'd much rather be playing another system. Can you literally do that for me? And I think the author did something here that I would recommend anyone do at their table when they find someone who constantly tries to wander off and be a one-on-one style player when everyone's at the table waiting on them, which is to simply ask, hey, you seem to be separating yourself from the party. Are you going to roll a new character who's actually going to be a team player, or are you going to return to the party? So that was really well handled. The fighter now just calling an end to the session entirely. That's something that I've never experienced, and that might actually be something that would get under my skin personally. So let's return to the story. I ask him why, and he says he's going to bed. We're still wanting to play, so I ask him if it's okay if we can roleplay still. Oh yeah, that's fine. Kinda sucks to keep going without all the players present, but whatever. Oh my god, dude, come on. He left the call, and I saw him playing a game for the time after the session. I had some role play, more like letting the rest of the party settle down and finish out the day. To anyone wondering, he insisted that he wanted to go to bed early since it was daylight savings and he didn't want to lose sleep, except the clocks went forward the night before. He then posts online that he wants to end the game an hour earlier than we'd been doing for months. Next session, I have things kind of start up again. They're in a private sanctuary, but despite this, they hear something whispering to each of them. They peer their heads out of the sanctum and see things that seem to be from their past, but not the past they remembered. All the party had a good time until Fighter's turn came. I did the same to his character, who insists on not resting for a long rest, mind you, and ignores it. The big bad evil guy was out there physically talking to him at some point. That got him out of the sanctum. When the fighter decided to go inside, I still wanted to describe something, and if you'd look up, you'd see, I don't look up. I don't look at it. Okay, but just, my character's too smart for this. I'm not looking up at it and falling for the tricks of this place. I later out of game told him that I just wanted to describe it since I'd had something for everyone written, that he didn't have to react in character to it and could have just ignored it in character. He told me I was disrespecting his agency as a player and that I shouldn't have done any of that and let him play his character how he wanted. Okay, if I was coming off as pushy about it, that's fair enough to say. I think honestly you're being too nice to this guy. If you told him to make a roll like a will save or something and he doesn't make it, his character does have to look at whatever that was. And I get the feeling as a dungeon master to not want to force something just because you prepared it in the notes and feel like you're railroading your players. But if he's refusing to follow basic mechanics of the game, if he's not allowing you as the dungeon master to make rolls, and hell, he's not even letting you pick when the game starts or stops when everyone else has agreed ahead of time, you're not the one being pushy here. Let's jump back to the story. The party goes back to one of the towns, the closest one to where they're at, and the fighter starts messaging me about his character again, about how he's so excited since his character figured out this place and the Dark Powers game, how the character has achieved CHIM. Not kidding, he said the fighter achieved CHIM. To anyone who doesn't know, it's an Elder Scrolls lore thing of enlightenment / meta knowledge. At least that's what he told me it was. Man, I'm really glad that the fighter decided without consulting the dungeon master that CHIM is canon within the world of Curse of Strahd. I kind of wonder how Strahd hasn't achieved it himself, but that's besides me. I'm not the boss here, the fighter is. I told him that I didn't think that fits in my game's theme, that his character didn't have that kind of information to conclude the answer, and that even the big bad evil guy doesn't have that kind of info. He agrees to what I've said, not. He seems to agree and then tries to roleplay having Kim with the wizard in the very next session. The wizard says in character that it doesn't make sense, and he replies with, "You just don't get it." So a few more sessions later, they're fighting a Dullahan on a bridge. Despite the fact that I've emphasized that there's room on the very edge of the bridge after the fighter already made 5 attacks, fighter decides to try to pole vault from a standing position and land 10 feet away on the other side of the creature. I tell him that's not really possible. He has a hissy fit about it. He then whines that he has to get within range of the Dullahan's attacks and get close before ending his turn, even though he just argued to pole vault 10 feet away, which brought him out of range and it was his own fault. I guess he should have only done 5 feet, but hey, we're just giving out action over action here, right? Dullahan uses his last legendary action to strike fighter, which is a natural 20. Dullahan has a unique ability that if they crit on an attack, then the player has to make a constitution saving throw. If they fail, then their head gets cut off. He makes his save, a natural 1. The fighter rage quits. You know, sometimes the dice gods just deliver, don't they? Amazing. He starts messaging me about this and about the party, telling me about how everyone else sucks, and he wasn't enjoying the game's direction anyways. He also said that the archfey the party befriended / saved the life of is definitely going to betray the party, and that they're just going to TPK the next session without him anyways. Fighter and I broke up for more than just this. I have screenshots that I'll be attaching to this post for anyone who wants to see the tantrum. The wizard and I have started a thing, thanks for reading. Okay, did I miss this part of the story? The fact that they were dating? I guess that kind of explains that weird feeling that they're entitled to co-hosting and rewriting the lore where they're basically the main character because they feel like, oh, I should get special treatment. But everyone hates that kind of player at the table. Okay, anyways, let's check out this meltdown, and they've appropriately renamed the Discord name for the fighter, Kim here. Oh boy, one day we will get it. Fighter has said the reality over the situation everyone is truly in. The dark powers now know Fighter isn't just some plaything. Perhaps this means he has true control over himself because he is truly self-aware. Is this really how you would type to someone that you're dating? What the? It also means his presence, dead or alive, will disturb the stability of the domains of dread. The reason clerics and paladins, angels and devils distort Ravenloft is because of their god's powers to understand the reason behind the existence of the domains. Fighter has achieved Kim. He truly recognizes his own purpose. He realizes this is a game of cosmic proportions, and thus understands him being real means he truly understands his condition. We are all souls in a game, and him understanding that means he has no fear and is not controlled by the machinations behind the mists. If you want to talk about this, I'm up for the bedchamber chat. This is a real exciting meta concept that a character has realized. He really just put that in bold. This guy's having like a manic episode. What is this? This is like a Kanye tweet. Not really that one either. Part of the games I like are the creative exercises that revolve around solving problems using individual skill sets. That game is great and all, but it's not the VMT experience I enjoy. I love story, but I also love the impact in the world as a whole. The players in this game save wizard are just off-putting sometimes. Like, what's the point of playing a character for months for people to poke and prod about their death in this awesome story? It just felt more and more meaningless to play each week. And he calls it a game save? This guy really has main character RPG player syndrome to the point where he's saying game save instead of just the game session. It's not like Paladin takes it seriously or cares. 3 multiclass, which is the barbarian multiclass, is awesome but doesn't really get the meaning of the themes of the game itself and its intrigue. Wizard is wonderful, and he plays his character as his character in the game. I didn't really like the addition of a warlock, which he invited if I recall. It sort of felt weird coming into the game so late, but it's whatever now. I do not enjoy the direction the game is going, thus I won't be playing in it. Simple as that. Fighter has been a blast to play, but yeah, as all things, the people involved ended up ruining the fun. Silent resentments, constant jokes and prodding, which I do too, but I actually stop when asked. Lack of engagement and lack of stability. The character was a wonderful thought exercise. If there were an epitaph on his grave, a nobody living a simple life and deciding to make a name for himself through fighting and study, being hardworking and honest with everyone he is around, being whisked away in a trial for his life and soul, and being given extraordinarily unfair odds. His friends are sponsored by liches, angels, and dragons. He was just a man in his first life, same then as now. But for all ordinary men, they die, and in the case he expected expected the most. Died a truly unexpected one. That is Fighter, the one who suffers but will always try his best for those around him. I had to double check when this was posted. This feels like a ChatGPT prompt that just keeps on running and running and running. I don't know what this guy's on, and I know less now than when I started. Okay, let's read the rest of what Kim has to say to remind you the person he's dating at the time. Whether they come to recognize this is up to you. You are the fighter now. You are his legacy. You decide if all his work meant something or will be forgotten. I won't play the character again unless convinced to, but I doubt the dark powers will let him be, because after all, he became aware of the world he was in and its purpose. Okay, so that rant happens throughout the night, and then the next day, Kim says at 7:34 a.m., "Wish I could have pole vaulted. It's a real technique used by Greek warriors who master their spears." Now, mind you, this is the first time the Dungeon Master has responded. I mean, wasn't sure on the ruling of the pole vaulting at the moment, and you'd use literally 6 attacks already that turn. Kim responds, 5 attacks. Action surge. Dungeon Master replies back, 5, fair, lol. Kim, and it sure wasn't free. I had haste. Dungeon Master, true, still hasted action already used too. Kim responds with whatevs, which I already have a problem with because this guy had a long-winded rant with like some Shakespearean, like, you are the champion, everything's within you, and he has this whole major thesis he writes out that felt like a computer prompt after repeating itself so many times. And then the next day he just says whatevs, followed by, I should have just casted something with my spells. Oh wait, I should have just used my holy power. Oh wait, what, dude? You picked a fighter. What is this guy even on? Did you break up with this man because he had a drug problem? I don't normally read into how people write things because everyone has a little bit different of a dialect. It's online. These stories come from all over. English might not even be their first language, but the way they write, they sound crazy. And I don't think this is like a translation issue. I think genuinely the way this person writes implies that they're kind of unwell and weirdly obsessed. This is a person that, mind you, they are dating at the time of writing this. They're spiraling at like 10 p.m. They're fuming about it all day. The first thing they do when they wake up, instead of saying good morning, you know, because you're dating the person, they say, I really should have been able to do a thing. You know, Greeks do it all the time. It's a totally normal thing for my fighter to do, and then piss and moan about him not having spells and other abilities when he chose his character. I mean, just last week we had the druid that complained about being a pacifist that couldn't do damage. So I don't know what it is about these RPG horror stories where people literally have meltdowns when their characters are limited by the things they limited their character with, but it seems to be a recurring thing this week. So I don't really know. This story really took a weird turn at the end there. It started with your average annoying fighter having a crash out and maybe the weirdest string of texts I've ever read. If I was in your situation and I woke up to this series of texts at 7 a.m., I would have assumed that my partner is having a manic episode, and I probably would have checked them into a mental institution. So glad you didn't have to deal with that at least, and hopefully your next campaign is a lot more fun. I'd love to hear what you guys think in the comments below. Maybe I'm reading into it too much, but obviously the author felt like it was necessary to include these Discord messages, and I'm kind of inclined to agree that it implies that there's something much deeper going on. If you want to support the channel, you can become a member. Make sure to always like and share the video as it really helps us grow, and I hope to see you in the next video. Farewell for now.